The broken girl at the marketplace was loud, full of voices, full of life, and full of life. Strange creatures from many worlds walked past each other. Traders shouted prices. Machines hummed. Smells of food and metal mixed in the air. Everyone was busy, rushing, buying, selling, and trading. But in the corner of this market, far away from the bright stalls, sat a girl who did not belong. She was not human. Her skin had a pale silver glow, like the light of the moon. Her hair was thin and white, falling across her face. But what everyone noticed first was not her hair, or her eyes, or even her alien features. They noticed the empty space where her left leg should have been. She sat on the cold ground, holding a small sign written in shaky letters. The sign said only 3 words: "Take me, please." She was an alien girl, broken, forgotten, and unwanted. The war had taken everything from her. Her family was gone. Her home was destroyed, and her leg. Her leg had been torn away by an explosion. She had survived, but survival was not enough. Without a leg, she could not walk, she could not work, she could not fight. She was only half of herself. And in a world that worshipped strength, half was worth nothing. She needed a prosthetic leg, a machine that could make her whole again. But prosthetics cost more than she could ever earn. She had no money, no family, no friends. So she made the only choice left to her. She put herself up for sale. She whispered to the traders, "Buy me. I will work for you. I will serve you. Only ask for one thing. A leg, please." But the marketplace was cruel. One man, tall and rich, looked down at her and laughed. "A broken girl. What will I do with you? You can't walk. You can't fight. You are useless." He spat on the ground and walked away. A group of women carrying baskets stopped to look. One of them whispered, "She looks weak. She will slow us down." They shook their heads and moved on. Children even pointed at her and laughed. "Look at the alien. She has only one leg." Their parents did not stop them. Everywhere she turned, she saw the same thing: disgust, rejection, or cold silence. Still, she did not give up. She stayed in that corner every day, waiting. The sun rose, the sun fell, and the stars came out. Traders packed up their stalls and returned in the morning. But she remained. Her body grew weaker with each day. Her stomach growled. Her throat was dry. Sometimes she thought about crawling away to some dark alley and never coming back. But then she touched the ground where her missing leg should have been, and she whispered to herself, "No, I will wait. Someone will see me. Someone will help." But deep inside, even she was starting to lose hope. One evening, the market was glowing with lanterns. The crowd was thicker than ever. Music played in the background. But even in this noise and light, her small sign was ignored. A merchant selling weapons passed by. She whispered, "Please, take me." He looked at her and frowned. "You are not even worth the food you eat. Go away, alien." Her eyes burned with tears, but she did not cry out. She lowered her head, hiding her face behind her hair. Another day ended. Another day with no one choosing her. As the night grew colder, she thought about the war again. She remembered fire in the sky, metal ships falling, and the sound of screams. She remembered her mother's voice, shouting her name before. Everything went black. When she woke up in the ruins, she was already missing her leg. She had screamed and screamed, but no one came. Now in the marketplace, that same emptiness surrounded her. She was alive, but she was invisible. Maybe they are right, she thought. Maybe I am useless. Maybe I will never be wanted. Her eyes closed. For a moment, she wished she could disappear, vanish into the air, so no one would ever laugh at her again. But then a small sound pulled her back, the sound of coins clinking in the distance. The sound of boots stepping closer. Someone was walking through the market. She lifted her head, and for a second, she thought she saw someone looking at her. Not at her missing leg, not at her weakness, but at her eyes. Her heart beat faster. Could it be? Could someone finally stop? The night was heavy with silence now. The traders were closing their stalls. The lights were dimming. But in that moment, in that corner of the market, the broken alien girl held her breath, because maybe, just maybe, her waiting was about to end. The crowd rejects the next morning. The marketplace came alive again. The alien girl was still there, sitting in the same corner. Her pale skin looked even dimmer under the rising sun, and her body was thinner than before. She clutched her small sign, "Take me, please," but her hands trembled. She had survived another night with no food. She had survived another night of cold wind cutting her skin. But survival was not the same as living. She needed someone to see her. She needed someone to care. The market, however, did not care. Merchants shouted from their stalls. They offered weapons, strange fruits, glowing crystals, and machines that could sing. Buyers shouted back, arguing for lower prices. The sound was a storm of voices, but none of those voices called her name. She whispered again, soft but desperate, "Buy me, please. I can work. I only want a leg." But the crowd did not stop. A tall merchant with gold chains noticed her, smirked, and walked closer. For a second, her heart lifted. Maybe he would choose her. Maybe he was different. But then he laughed loudly so everyone around could hear. Who would buy this? Look at her. She has only one leg. She is broken. A broken thing has no value. As the crowd around him laughed too. Some pointed at her, some shook their heads, some spat on the ground. Her face burned, but she stayed silent. If she shouted back, they would hate her more. If she cried, they would mock her louder. So she lowered her head and whispered to herself, "Stay calm, stay strong." A woman carrying silks stopped next. She bent down and studied the girl's pale face. For one moment, it looked like pity. The alien girl's heart beat faster. She almost reached out her hand, but the woman shook her head. "No one wants a servant who cannot walk. You will only slow me down." She pulled her silks tighter and walked away. Time passed. The girl kept whispering, but her voice was weaker now. "Take me. I can clean, I can cook. I can carry things if you give me a leg. Please, please." But no one listened. Children ran by, laughing and playing. One of them pointed at her and shouted, "Look." The alien girl with no leg. The other children laughed too. They threw small stones at her before running away. The girl closed her eyes, trying not to cry. She told herself, "It's only children. They don't know better." But deep inside, their laughter hurt more than the stones. As the sun rose higher, more traders stopped only to insult her. A man selling metal parts sneered. "Even if someone gave you a leg, you'd still be weak. No muscles, no power. A prosthetic would break on you." Another spat on the ground near her. "Aliens like you should not even be here. You waste space." Each word cut deeper than any blade. Still, she stayed. Still, she waited. Hours turned into a long day. The market grew hotter, louder, brighter. The alien girl's throat was dry. Her stomach twisted in hunger. She had no strength to shout anymore. Her whisper was all she had. "Take me, please." But her whisper was swallowed by the noise of the crowd. When the evening came, the market lights returned. Lanterns glowed golden in the dark, and music echoed from far away. Traders celebrated their profits. Buyers carried heavy bags of food and goods. And still she sat in the corner, alone, One young boy carrying fruit saw her and stopped. He held out an apple. For the first time that day, kindness touched her. But before she could take it, his father grabbed his arm. "No, don't waste food on trash." He pulled the boy away, leaving her hand empty. Her eyes filled with tears. She wiped them quickly before anyone could see. That night, the laughter of the market echoed in her ears. She thought about all the words they had said: broken, useless, trash. She hugged herself tightly. "Maybe they are right," she whispered. "Maybe no one will ever want me." Her hope was breaking, piece by piece, just like her body. But then, deep in the crowd, something shifted. The music softened, the voices blurred, and the sound of heavy boots echoed against the stone ground. Someone new had entered the marketplace. He walked slowly, not rushing like the others. His presence was heavy, and people moved aside to let him pass. His cloak was dark, and a scar cut across his face. His eyes were sharp, scanning the market like a hunter searching for prey. For a moment, she thought he would pass her like everyone else. Her heart sank. But then, he stopped. He was standing right in front of her. The alien girl lifted her head. Her breath caught in her throat, and unlike the others, this man was not looking at her missing leg. He was looking at her eyes. The stranger appears the marketplace was beginning to close. Lanterns flickered, traders packed their goods, and laughter echoed through the air. The alien girl sat in her corner, weak, cold, and nearly invisible. For 2 days she had begged to be chosen, but no one wanted her. Her sign lay crooked in her lap, her trembling hands barely able to hold it. And then he came. The sound of heavy boots echoed against the stone floor. They were steady, slow, and full of weight. The noise cut through the chatter of the market. People stepped aside as a tall man walked forward. He wore a long black cloak, torn at the edges, with dust from distant roads clinging to it. His face was rough, marked by a scar that ran from his temple down to his jaw. His eyes, sharp and cold, scanned the marketplace. He was not like the others. He did not laugh, he did not shout, he did not bargain. He walked with silence, and silence followed him. Even the loud merchants grew quieter when he passed. The alien girl froze. She watched him through strands of her white hair. For a moment, she thought he would ignore her like everyone else. But then he stopped. The man's shadow fell across her. Slowly, she lifted her head, meeting his gaze. Unlike the others, he was not staring at the empty space where her leg should have been. He was looking directly into her eyes. The girl's breath caught. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Take me, please. I will work. I only want a leg." The man did not laugh. He did not sneer. He did not walk away. Instead, he lowered himself to one knee so he could see her more closely. His cloak brushed the ground as he leaned forward. For a long moment, he said nothing. The crowd around them slowed, curious, watching. Finally, his voice came. Deep, low, steady. "What will you give me," he asked, "if I take you?" Her heart pounded. No one had asked her that before. No one had cared enough to speak. She swallowed, her throat dry. "Everything," she whispered. "I will give you my life, my work, my service. I have nothing else. I am broken. But if you give me a leg, I will be yours forever." The man studied her, his eyes unreadable. He reached out and lifted the small sign from her hands. He turned it over once, then placed it back in her lap. "Forever," he repeated softly, as if testing the word. The crowd around them began to murmur. "Is he serious?" Someone whispered, "He can't be thinking of taking her. Why waste credits on a crippled alien?" The merchants laughed, shaking their heads. But the man ignored them all. His gaze never left her. He stood up slowly, his tall figure towering over her small body. His cloak moved like a shadow behind him. And then, in a voice loud enough for all to hear, he said, "I'll take her." The marketplace erupted. Some gasped, some shouted, "Fool! She is worthless." Others laughed, certain he had lost his mind. But the man did not argue. He simply reached into his cloak and pulled out a small metal case. He opened it, revealing shining credits, more than enough to buy someone far stronger, far healthier, far more useful than the alien girl. The trader in charge of the market looked stunned. "Are you sure?" he asked carefully. "For this one? Her?" The man's voice was like stone. "Yes. For this one?" The credits changed hands. The deal was sealed. The alien girl could not move. She stared at him, her mind racing. Why? Why would he choose her when no one else would? He stepped forward and, without asking, lifted her into his arms. She was light, far too light, and he carried her as if she weighed nothing at all. Her hands clutched his cloak, unsure if she should resist or accept. Her voice shook. Why? Why me? He glanced down at her, his eyes still cold but not cruel. "Because you are broken," he said quietly, "and broken things, belong with me." The crowd roared with laughter again, but his words stayed heavy in her chest. She did not know if it was kindness, cruelty, or something else entirely. As he carried her out of the marketplace, she looked back one last time. All the faces that had mocked her were still there, watching, whispering, laughing. But none of them mattered anymore, because someone had finally chosen her. The night air was colder outside the market. The streets were empty, the stars sharp above them. He walked without speaking, carrying her with ease. She did not know where he was taking her. She did not know if she should feel safe or afraid. But she did know one thing, for the first time in a long time. She was not alone, and in the silence, a spark of hope flickered inside her chest. The crowd was still buzzing after the man's strange choice. The marketplace, usually filled with bargaining and laughter, now whispered only about him. Why her? Someone muttered. He must be mad. Another spat. Broken. Alien girl. Not even worth a coin. But the man ignored every voice. His cloak swayed behind him as he carried her in his arms, walking toward the trader's booth to finish the deal. The trader's eyes darted between the girl and the credits. He cleared his throat nervously. "You are sure? There are stronger slaves. Fighters, workers. She cannot even stand." The man's reply was calm, almost cold. "I did not ask for stronger. I asked for her." The trader hesitated, then finally nodded. He pressed his stamp against a small device, marking the girl as purchased. The credits clinked into his hands, heavy and bright. He smiled greedily, happy with the trade. The market laughed louder, mocking the deal. He paid too much. He bought trash. He will regret it. But the man did not argue. He did not even look back. The girl's heart raced as she was carried away. Her thin hands clung to his cloak, unsure of what to say. She had begged for this moment for so long, yet now that it had come, fear crawled inside her chest. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Why? Why did you buy me?" The man's boots echoed on the stone road. He did not answer right away. His scarred face was unreadable, his sharp eyes fixed forward. Finally, he spoke. Because no one else would. The words confused her. Were they kindness, pity, or something darker? The market noise faded behind them. The night air was colder outside, filled with the sound of wind sweeping through narrow streets. He carried her as if she were weightless, yet she felt heavy with questions. "What will you do with me?" she asked softly. He glanced down at her. "Keep you alive." Her heart jumped. Alive. But why? They walked until the lights of the market disappeared. Ahead was a path that led away from the city walls, toward a dark stretch of land. The stars burned bright above them, silver and sharp. The girl whispered again, her voice small, "I promised you my life. It is yours. But, do you truly want it?" The man stopped walking. For the first time, he looked at her fully, his face close to hers. His eyes were not cruel, but they were heavy with something she could not name. "I want truth," he said quietly. "And truth lives in broken things." She shivered at his words. She did not understand them, but they clung to her like chains. At last, they reached a small transport waiting at the edge of the road. It was old, patched with metal plates, its engine humming softly. He opened the hatch and stepped inside. Placing her gently on a seat, she blinked, surprised. She had expected chains, cages, commands, but he simply handed her a small cloth and a bottle of water. "Drink," he ordered. Her throat ached with thirst. She drank quickly, water spilling down her chin. It was the first kindness she had tasted in days. When she finished, she whispered, "Thank you." He did not answer. He started the engine, and the transport rumbled into the night. The road stretched far and empty. The world outside a blur of dust and shadow. Inside, silence filled the cabin. The girl sat curled on the seat, her sign still clutched in her lap. She glanced at the man, but his eyes were fixed on the road. Her thoughts spun in circles. She was no longer in the marketplace. She was no longer alone. She had been chosen. But why? Her body shook with fear and hope, both fighting inside her. Hours passed. The transport finally stopped outside a lonely building hidden among rocks and shadows. Its walls were tall, metal, and covered in wires that glowed faintly. Looked nothing like a home, nothing like a shop. It looked like a secret. The man opened the hatch and stepped out. He looked back at her. "Come." She stared at him, then at her missing leg. I cannot walk." Without a word, he returned, lifting her once more. His grip was firm, steady, almost gentle. He carried her inside. The building was dark at first, but as he walked deeper, lights flickered on. The walls were lined with machines, tools, and strange parts. Tables were stacked with wires, gears, and glowing crystals. It was not a home. It was a workshop. The girl's eyes widened. What is this place?" He placed her on a chair near one of the tables. For the first time, he allowed the faintest trace of a smile. "This is where broken things are. Made whole again." Her heart stopped. The words hit her like thunder. Could it be? Could he mean? Her eyes filled with tears she could not hold back. For the first time in forever, she whispered with trembling hope, "Will you give me a leg?" The man's eyes shone faintly in the workshop light. "Yes," he said. "But it will not just be a leg. It will be stronger." The girl's breath caught. Her chest burned with something new, something she had not felt in years. Hope. The new life the workshop was unlike anything the alien girl had ever seen. The walls hummed with machines. The air smelled of hot metal and oil, and wires curled across the floor like roots of an ancient tree. On one table lay a half-built arm, made of steel and glowing crystal. On another, a broken mask with cracks running down its surface. Every corner of the room whispered stories of repair and invention. The man set her gently on a chair near a workbench. For the first time since she had lost her leg, she was not lying on the cold ground, not begging for scraps, not invisible. She sat in a place where things were made whole again. Her eyes trembled with hope and fear. She whispered, "Will you? Will you really help me?" The man moved to the bench, pulling tools from a drawer. His voice was calm, steady, like a man used to silence. "I said I would, and I keep my words." He gave her food, first real food, not scraps from the market floor. A small loaf of bread, a bowl of thick soup, a glass of clean water. She ate quickly, almost like an animal, but he said nothing. He only watched her with those sharp eyes, waiting. When she slowed, embarrassed, she whispered, "I'm sorry. I've not eaten properly in so long." His reply was short. "Then eat more." Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not with kindness, not with order, but with something that felt almost like care. After she ate, he showed her the workshop. He moved like he belonged among the machines, each step certain, each hand steady. She watched him work, melting metal, shaping wires, fitting gears with careful precision. He began to sort through a box of mechanical parts. Among them, she saw the curve of something familiar. A leg. Not human, not alien. Something in between. Her breath caught. "Is that for me?" He did not look at her. He kept working, his voice quiet but firm. "It will be." She felt her heart race. For so long, the idea of walking again had been only a dream. She had pictured it 1,000 times while sitting alone in the market, but the dream always broke apart. Now, here it was becoming real in the hands of a stranger, but questions filled her mind like storm clouds. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you helping me? You could have bought anyone else, someone stronger, someone whole. This time?" He looked at her. His scar glowed faintly under the workshop light, his eyes unreadable. "Because once I was broken too." The words sank deep into her chest. She stared at him, searching for meaning. Broken. He looked strong, dangerous, unshaken. How could he have been like her? But he had already turned away, working again with his tools. It was clear he would not say more. Still, those words stayed with her. Days passed in the workshop. The first time, she had a roof over her head and warmth in the air. The man gave her food each day, water each night, and a place to rest. He never asked her for anything in return. He never chained her, never beat her, never mocked her. Instead, he worked. He worked on the leg. She watched every step. The way he carved metal into smooth curves. The way he fitted glowing crystals into sockets. The way sparks danced as he welded parts together. The leg was not just a machine. It was art. Sometimes, when she grew bold enough, she whispered questions. "Where did you learn this? Why do you live alone?" "What is your name?" he answered. Little, sometimes with silence. Sometimes with only a single word. His name at last, he gave Kale. Kale, the man who bought her. The man who was making her whole again. But even as hope grew in her heart, fear lingered. She could not forget the marketplace, the laughter, the voices that called her useless. She could not forget her promise to him. "My life is yours." She lay awake at night, staring at the workshop ceiling. What would he ask of her once the leg was complete? Would he make her fight? Would he make her serve? Or was there something else, something darker, hidden behind his scarred face? She did not know, and yet she knew one truth: she wanted the leg. She wanted to stand again, to walk again, to live again. No matter the cost. One evening, as the last piece clicked into place, Kale lifted the prosthetic leg into the air. It gleamed under the light, a mixture of metal and crystal, stronger than any limb she had ever seen. Her breath caught. Tears filled her eyes. Kale looked at her, his voice low. "Tomorrow, you will walk." Her chest burned with emotion, fear, hope, and something more powerful than both. For the first time since the war, she believed in a future. A new life was beginning. The rising threat morning came quietly. The workshop lights glowed dim as Kale placed the finished prosthetic leg on the table. The alien girl stared at it with wide eyes. It was beautiful, smooth silver metal, glowing crystal veins, joints that looked stronger than bone. To her, it was more than a leg. It was freedom. Kale crouched beside her chair. His hands were steady, his voice calm. "Are you ready?" Heart pounded. She nodded. With careful precision, he attached the prosthetic to the remains of her leg. The metal hissed softly as wires fused with her nerves. She gasped, gripping the chair. Pain and fire shot through her body, but then something else. Strength. Power, she could feel it. The leg was not just attached, it was alive with her. Kale stood back. "Try." Her hands shook as she pushed herself up. For the first time since the war, she stood on two legs. The weight of her body balanced. The ground felt solid beneath her. Her breath caught, and tears filled her eyes. She took one step, then another. Each one shaky but real. Then, slowly, she walked across the room. She turned to Kale, her voice breaking. I can walk." For the first time, Kale allowed himself a faint smile. "You can do more than walk. That leg is stronger than flesh. Remember that." Her chest burned with emotion. She wanted to laugh, to cry, to scream to the universe that she was whole again. But before she could, the sound came. A sharp bang echoed outside. Metal against metal. Then another closer. This time, Kale's face darkened instantly. His smile vanished. "Stay here," he ordered. The girl froze. "What is it?" He grabbed a weapon from the wall, a sleek rifle with glowing edges. "You checked." The charge then moved toward the door. His boots were silent, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the walls as though he had expected this moment. The banging grew louder. Then came voices. "We know you're in there, Kale. Hand over the alien girl. She belongs to the market. She is not yours." Her blood ran cold. They were the voices from the marketplace. The same ones who had laughed, mocked, and rejected her. Now they were here. Why? Why would they come now, when no one had wanted her before? Kale stepped outside, weapon ready. His voice was calm, but hard. "Go back. You will not take her." The crowd outside was larger than she imagined. Traders, scavengers, even hired fighters. Their faces burned with greed and anger. One man shouted, "You think you can hide her? That alien is worth more than you know. She has power in her blood. We want her back." The girl's heart twisted. Worth, power. She had never felt powerful. She had only felt broken. But now, their eyes were hungry, desperate. Kale raised his weapon. The first man who steps closer dies. For a moment, silence. Then the mob laughed. "You can't fight all of us, Kale. Give her up, or we'll burn your workshop down." Inside, the girl's hands shook. She stared at her new leg, glowing faintly. Kale had given her strength. But what good was strength if she still hid in the corner? The banging began again, this time against the door itself. She could hear the metal frame groaning. Kale shouted, "Stay inside." She could not. She could not just sit and wait to be taken. She stood, her new leg humming with power. For the first time, she felt steady, strong. Her steps echoed across the floor as she moved closer to the door. Her chest burned with fear and courage. She whispered to herself, "No more waiting. No more begging. Not again." The door burst open. Fighters stormed inside, armed with blades and crude guns. They sneered when they saw her standing. "Look at that. She walks again. That leg will sell for more than the girl herself." She froze. Part of her wanted to run, to hide, to crawl back into the shadows. But another part, stronger, now told her she could not. Kale fired his rifle, striking the first attacker. Sparks lit the room. The mob shouted and charged. The girl's new leg glowed brighter, energy flowing in too. Her body? She lifted it, unsteady, then kicked forward. The strike sent a fighter crashing into the wall with a scream. Her own eyes widened. She had not known her strength. Kale glanced at her, his scarred face grim but proud. Good. Now fight. The workshop filled with chaos, gunfire, shouting, crashing metal. The girl moved with instinct. Each kick from her prosthetic leg struck harder than any weapon. Each step she took shook the floor. But still, the mob kept coming. Too many, too fast. Her chest heaved, sweat dripping down her pale skin. She looked at Kale. There are too many. Kale's eyes burned. Then we stand together. The battle raged on, louder and fiercer. Outside, the night sky burned with fire from stray blasts. Inside, machines crashed, sparks flew, and the air filled with smoke. For the first time, the alien girl was not a victim. She was not crawling, not begging, not broken. She was fighting, and yet, as more enemies pushed through the doorway, she realized something chilling. This was only the beginning. The final choice, the workshop, burned with chaos. Sparks fell like fireflies. Machines lay in pieces, and the air stank of smoke and sweat. The alien girl stood in the middle of it all, her new leg glowing with blue light. Kale fought beside her. Rifle blazing, each shot dropping another enemy. But the mob was endless. Shadows filled the doorway, faces twisted with greed and hatred. They wanted her, not Kale, not the workshop. Her chest heaved, her heart thundered. She felt torn in two. One side of her screamed to run, to crawl back into the corner, to be invisible again. The other side, the side that burned with her new strength, demanded something else. To fight, to rise. Kale's voice cut through the storm. Decide now, he shouted. Hide or stand. She froze. Her mind flashed back to the marketplace. The laughter, the mocking voices. Useless. Broken. Trash. The children throwing stones. The rich man spitting at her. That was who she had been begging, waiting, hoping for someone to notice. But now, as she looked at her glowing leg, at the sparks dancing around her feet, she realized the truth. She was no longer waiting. Fighter lunged at her with a blade. She kicked. The blade shattered, and the man flew back into the wall. Another tried to grab her arm. She spun, her legs smashing into his chest. The force threw him across the room. Her own eyes widened. Her body shook, not from fear, but from power. She was strong. Kale's scarred face turned toward her. For once, his voice carried fire. Good. Now fight like you were meant to. The mob roared, furious. More men charged, guns firing, blades flashing. The girl screamed not in fear, but in fury. She launched forward, her prosthetic leg glowing. Brighter, each strike breaking stone, each kick shaking the floor. For every enemy Kale shot down, she struck down two more. The workshop rang with their battle cries, with the crash of falling bodies, with the thunder of her new steps. And still they kept coming. Her chest burned, her limbs ached, but she did not stop. She could not stop. Every laugh from the marketplace, every insult, every cruel word, they all fueled her now. She was not broken, not anymore. Finally, the mob began to falter. Fear crept into their eyes. They had come for an easy prize, for a broken girl they thought was weak. Instead, they had found a storm. Their leader, the greedy man from the marketplace, shouted in rage, "She belongs to us. She is ours." The girl turned toward him, her eyes burning. Belonged to no one. Her legs struck the ground, sending a crack through the stone. She launched forward, faster than she thought possible. Her kick landed square in his chest. The man screamed as he flew through the doorway, crashing into the dust outside. Silence followed. The mob stared in shock, and then, slowly, one by one, they fled into the night. The workshop was quiet again, broken and burning, but alive. The girl stood in the center, chest heaving, her silver skin streaked with dirt and sweat. Her glowing leg pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. She looked at Cale, trembling. I fought them. Cale lowered his rifle, his scarred face unreadable. Then he gave the faintest nod. You chose. She swallowed. I chose to fight. His voice was steady. And you won. For a moment, the weight of it all hit her. She remembered sitting in the marketplace, begging for anyone to buy her. She remembered believing she was worthless, invisible. She remembered the laughter, the stones, the spit. And now the same people had fled from her. Her eyes burned with tears, but this time they were not tears of shame. They were something new, something brighter. She looked at Cale, her voice soft but certain. Thank you for giving me this chance. Cale studied her, silent. Then he spoke words that stayed in her chest like fire. I did not give you strength. It was always yours. I only gave you the leg to use it. Her breath caught. She touched the glowing metal where it joined her skin. For the first time, she believed him. She had not been chosen because she was weak. She had been chosen because she could rise. The night outside was quiet now, but she knew it would not stay that way. The mob would return. Others would come. Word would spread of the alien girl with the powerful leg, but she was not afraid. Not anymore. She stood tall beside Cale, her new steps strong, her heart steady. Once she had begged to be bought down. She was no one's property. She was free. She was powerful. And she was ready for whatever came next.